Welcome back, everyone.
Hello. Would you like to explain what happened?
Okay, because I think I'm going to skip it. I think I might skip some of my freak out, but last episode, I had a teeny tiny little bit of a freak out.
Oh no, you're keeping that freak out in because a bridge needs to be made.
So basically, we went to the Rotten Vale, and I freaked out because I thought there was like a literal glitch because the game has obviously had its bugs, and people are fixing it.
Yeah.
I thought there was a glitch where apparently it just skipped the entire Legiana boss fight. Legiana is the boss monster in the Coral Highlands, but what I had forgotten was there are two parts to the Rotten Vale. There's the upper part where we're at now, and there's a lower part that we have to get to. And in order for us to get to that, we have to fight the Legiana. But basically, we get to explore here, realize we have to fight the Legiana, and then we're going to go to the bottom parts.
Okay, so in summation...
Yep.
You got the story
mixed up
a little backwards in that we had to leave the Coral Highlands to find out we needed to go back to the Coral Highlands to finish something up, and then we actually proceed to the Rotten Vale.
Yes.
You saw Rotten Vale and afraid that it just skipped that entire part.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
So, but we're good. We're good. But we're in the upper, this is the upper
now
part.
I want this to be an accident. I want that entire thing to have been skipped because a part of me wants to see it happen just so I can do the slow head turn towards you and stare in a silent proclamation of what the bro.
What?
I want this to happen now.
I thought my game was broken.
Secretly, I'm hoping this.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's not much of a secret, I just told you. But I'm wanting it to happen. I want you to know that. And why are there cat people just randomly standing around?
I don't know, they might help us if I happen to grab onto a monster. So, we get to come into another personal favorite monster of mine. This might be my favorite monster in the Rotten Vale.
I'm so glad you're starting to clarify these things because we've come across your favorite monster like 3 times.
Yep.
So I'm glad you're starting to clarify, no, this is my favorite monster in this area.
Yep. Because we found a bunch of tar...
Okay, it's another one trying to do the Goron death roll. What the hell?
It's and we have a bunch of tar and bones. So what better yet do we have than a giant tar monster that gathers bones for armor?
Okay. When I mentioned the Goron death roll, for those of you not in the know, in The Legend of Zelda, there are species called the Gorons. They are rock people. They can actually curl themselves up into balls similar to rocks and roll down hills.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the Zelda games, Majora's Mask specifically, you can actually become a Goron.
Mm-hmm.
In which you have this roll ability. But since you're Link and are special, you have a magic attack with it. You can roll fast enough to actually create spikes out of your back.
Yeah.
It is of such use that they actually make a minigame around it where you race other Gorons.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
When comparing the Goron death roll to the Paolumu, I was just trying to be fanciful, have a laugh. This motherfucker is fringing on trademark infringement. Because the hell, mate. The hell.
I still think it looks pretty awesome.
It looks freaking amazing. Those bones are so intimidating. I mean, it doesn't look like it has spikes. It looks like it's made of spikes.
Mm-hmm. And the fun thing is, this is technically what's called a subspecies. I don't know what a subspecies, but it's another form of an already existing monster called the Urugan. And it's called the Radobaan. So basically, it's another T-Rex looking monster that rolls, and its gimmick is it has a very large chin that it uses to slam and cause earthquakes and tremors. And if we can get a good look at his face, he kind of has a large...
I've seen a good look at his face.
Yeah, he has a rather large chin.
Indeed.
So yeah, it basically has
the Crimson Chin would be proud.
Yes, exactly. Here comes the Crimson Chin. I'm so happy you remember that.
I am constantly amazed at the things I remember and the things I have forgotten.
The Fairly Odd Parents was a fun show when it was like at its peak. I really liked that. I really liked it a lot.
Most things are at their best when they're at their peak.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I feel like it was like when I stopped watching Nickelodeon, I was like, I watched Fairly Odd Parents. That was like one of the good cartoons to end on.
It was a creative show. It had a lot of funny moments. I think that either someone got involved that shouldn't have gotten involved and kind of took the show in a different direction.
Have you seen what they've done with it?
Or the creators kind of ran out of ideas on what to do with it.
Have you seen what they've done with it lately?
Lately, no. I do remember that they gave Cosmo and Wanda a kid named Poof. I know they've tried like 2 live-action films.
They had a dog at one point.
Yeah, they had a dog at one point. Drake Bell, I believe his name is.
Yeah, Drake Bell.
Was Timmy in 2 of the live-action films.
Yep, from Drake and Josh.
Yep, from Drake and Josh. And, so I know it just seems like to me it kind of got away from itself.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the Jimmy Neutron syndrome.
Well, they've done more, and it's, my opinion, far worse. So, you remember Fairly Odd Parents and like the rules. What's the big rule of Fairly Odd Parents? What kid gets a fairy? What conditions have to be met for him to get a fairy?
A kid has to be in an unfair situation where his parents or basically everyone in his life ignores him and his life is crap.
He's miserable.
He's miserable.
Yes. So, there was a new female character they added to the show, a human. Her name, I forget what her name is off the top of my head. But basically, her life was perfect. And it's like that stereotypical thing where everyone on the show is obsessed with something. Timmy is not. And he rebels, and everyone's just like, all the kids in school are like, oh, we like this person. Their parents are like, oh, we like this person kind of thing. And it's this little girl. She is like extremely popular. She is perfect in every way, is nice, is loved. And I forget what the reasons are, but she and Timmy are sharing Cosmo and Wanda.
What?
Yeah. So she's like the new person on the show, and she has been assigned Cosmo and Wanda, and it makes no sense whatsoever because she's not miserable.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I know that there was, when you were first talking, I thought you were talking about Vicky's little sister.
Or, no.
Tootie,
yeah.
Tootie, yeah.
No, not her.
I thought you might have been talking about her because her life is kind of crap.
Oh, yeah, I'm surprised she's like fairies.
Even when it comes to Timmy, it's very unrequited feelings, and very similar situations that he has as far as, parents and siblings. So, I thought you might have been talking about her. But the only thing that I can think, comparatively to that is, I remember in the show there was another kid who was rich. And he had a fairy, and his fairy was very egocentric.
Yeah, Juandissimo
Juandissimo.
Magnifico.
Yes, he was Hispanic, and Wanda used to date him. And that plot point gets mentioned several times.
It's so funny.
They used to date! We get it! But, he's, super rich, not all that creative of a person, but he got a fairy because he was mentally miserable.
Yeah.
Because his parents couldn't care less about him. He didn't have any siblings, so he was constantly alone. He had all the money in the world, and it wasn't giving him happiness.
Yep.
So he was able... So that's what, basically qualified him for a fairy, and it made him even more of a prick. But, that was kind of the justification of it. So even that you can kind of understand, because it's like, oh, look, money can't buy happiness. This kid has all the money he ever wants, and he still gets a fairy, because guess what? He's still freaking miserable. And even with a fairy, he's still kind of miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, even that I could kind of understand, but if someone is perfectly happy and adequate in their life, unless it's like a punishment against Timmy, I don't really get it.
Yeah. Like there was literally nothing wrong with her life. Like, parents don't ignore her or anything. It's legit perfect. And they just gave her Timmy's parents too, godparents too, because she's a new character they want to add on to the show. Yeah. And the thing is, I rant about these things. Some people will be like, oh, who cares? Just a cartoon stuff. Yes, in some ways, that's true. It's just a cartoon. Why should I care? The only reason I care, and we talk about this with Star Wars on my numerous rants as well, is you make a rule. You made a law in Fairly Odd Parents, and it just shows how you don't care about that law sometimes. How they'll just...
That also says you don't care about what you're making.
Yes.
If you create a rule in your own universe, and you even if you kind of back yourself into a corner and you need to break that rule, you have to come up with a legitimate reason as to why you're breaking the rule.
Not just break the rule because.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, Timmy's teacher, this is a good example, who is obsessed with the idea that fairies exist. He is constantly trying to catch Timmy with fairies and trying to prove that fairies exist. And one of the rules in their universe is that no one can know you have fairy godparents. But he truly believes that Timmy has them.
Yeah.
Well, it's because that's his belief. And that's his knowledge. That's what he concludes. It's not like a given fact that this is what is happening. Everyone just thinks he's crazy anyway.
Yeah.
So that's how you get around that rule of, he doesn't know, people think he's crazy. And then you find out later, in much later episodes, like when he was a kid, he was miserable, and he had fairy godparents.
He had Cosmo and Wanda.
And when he had to grow up, his memory was erased of them. And so, but he left behind a clue that told him that fairies existed. So he became obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So you're following your own rules, but you've also explained how that rule is bent in this occasion. And it shows an amount of thought and care you have towards what you're doing.
Yeah.
So when you have an established rule that you just up and break for no reason, no justification, it shows that you, at least a part of you, has stopped caring.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure there may have been something they made up, but if I'm right, it really didn't make sense. So, still, like, basically bad storytelling in a way as well.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people seem to think that, especially when it comes to, like, kid shows or cartoons in general, that, oh, it is just a kid's show, they're not going to care. No, there are several kids who, I remember being a kid and seeing something that didn't make sense. I freaking remember it.
Yeah.
And, there were times that when something didn't make sense, I stopped caring about it. Because if this thing wasn't trying, why should I?
Yeah. So, real quick, stepping away from our Fairly Odd Parents rant. Can't believe this is happening while we're playing Monster Hunter. The Radobaan, trying to pronounce these monsters correctly, just released a sleeping agent, a gas that cause us to fall asleep, and he could have really gotten a free hit on us if he had actually hit us.
But it actually seems like he was more interested in Alistair at that moment.
Good job, Alistair.
Good on Alistair.
Best cat ever.
But yeah, I think that's why it's actually insanely difficult to do a kids show well.
Yeah, exactly. Because kids are smart. Kids will figure this stuff out. They'll be like, wait, no, this doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And I actually, I don't know if I told you this, but I actually got a notice for an audition for a kids theater group.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of looked up like what kind of shows they do and what kind of like audiences they play towards.
Ooh, yeah.
And I had to decide, like, is this the kind of thing that I think I could do?
Mm-hmm.
And with this particular instance, when I looked at, what they did and the shows they put on and the morals behind them, I really just said, like, you know what? I have certain skills, and I just don't think they could apply here.
Mm-hmm.
Because, with some of these shows, they're designed for, like, little kids.
Ah, gotcha.
And some of them were for older kids, but still had to be put in a way that anyone could understand it.
Interesting.
So I basically said, like, there are certain kids theater and kids theater shows that I feel like I could do really well at.
Mm-hmm.
This just wasn't one of them.
Gotcha.
So, I think being able to look at, kids' entertainment and go, like, you know what? I think this can work, but it also has to be, I don't think this can work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you kind of lose that idea, it's like, oh, just do it anyway, you kind of lose something.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because I have a feeling like if I did some of these kid shows, the kids themselves are going to realize, like, huh? Like, he's saying all the words and going through all the motions, but something just doesn't...
Something's not clicking.
Right.
Something's not clicking here.
Yeah.
Oh boy, he is not happy with me right now. I ruined his nappy nap.
And I think that's why, like, so many kids shows get, like, adult fandoms.
Oh yeah.
You need only look at, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender, or My Little Pony, for God's sake.
Oh god. Unfortunately, yes, that's true.
There are adults who love Sailor Moon, and Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they're kid shows, but it's often the times that they become more than a kid show that people latch onto.
I mean, we're getting to the point where many, the reason why those are so popular, we're getting to the point where a lot of people who grew up with that are adults now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at you and me. We're both in our mid-20s, basically.
Yeah.
And that's like one thing I realized too. There's I can't remember the name of him. Hey, I killed him. Yeah.
Aha!
There's a football player who has been made publicly aware that he still enjoys and plays Pokemon on a casual basis.
Cool.
I have to get his name, but that's when I suddenly realized, it's like, with Pokemon, we are now at that point where there are a lot of people who are in professional jobs, who have grown up with Pokemon, and they still play it. And it's like, it really shows how far it's gone,
Mm-hmm.
and that something like that, and even the people who are really into, like, Sailor Moon and Power Rangers, it's like they still remember that. They remember they grew up with it.
Yeah. And, like, I remember learning that as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
in that I still watched all different kinds of TV and listened to all different kinds of music and read all kinds of different things. And some of the stuff I was a little embarrassed about, because, like, should someone my age really like these things?
Nah, who cares?
And actually, no, it was my father and mother who told me about a professional football player, professional NFL football player, a man whose job it is to put on a bunch of pads and hit other people and get hit by other people for a living.
Yep.
One of the things he talked about in an interview as a hobby is he loves to binge watch Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
he would tape a bunch of the episodes in the afternoons when he had practice or whatever, and he'd sit down later and just watch them all. And you know, that was one of the first instances like, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's action oriented. It has some comedy in it. Yeah, why can't an adult like it?
Yeah, exactly. So we just finished our expedition here.
Woo!
We had to sight the Great Jagros again. We had to kill the Radobaan, which we did. And we went deeper into the Rotten Vale, not to the point where we can locate the Zora Magnaros, but basically, you saw that gas there. If I'm not careful, it slowly does damage to me.
Yeah.
And all the small monsters get infected by it, and they become more savage attackers. So, really dangerous spot to hang around in. You just gotta be very careful. Oh yeah, do you remember this person? This is the person that saved us when we got knocked out.
Oh, that's right.
And yeah, so she's introduced herself because I don't think we met her the last time. We were too busy being knocked out.
And
I'm from the first floor.
oh, how you doing?
Yep.
You folks are lucky to be alive.
Way to go, sister. But yeah, like when we first got to this area, we saw like a cutscene of the gas and like creatures actually like falling into it for reasons.
Fun thing to the attention to detail. I like these little things. But if we wear an armor piece that protects over our mouth, we resist it more. The armor doesn't have to have that specific skill. It's just if we wear something that covers our mouth, we have more resistance to the gas. I think that's very smart.
I'll see what I can find. I've spent years delving into this valley.
So yeah, so she's been here for a long time, and basically next time we meet her, we're going to trade information.
Nice.
Now it's your turn. Learn all.
Because once we finish going through this place, we're going to. I mean, no spoilers. We're going to get the. We're going to know what the whole why elder dragons come here every 10 years.
Okay.
We're so serious. She's so happy.
Yeah, she's just like, yeah, this is my life.
Yep.
What up?
All right, so successful expedition, and next time we're going to try to go deeper into the Rotten Vale.
All right. Until next time, everybody.
Later.